So yesterday's video, I just rolled with the idea of healing is hard because that seemed to be the general theme for most of what I was talking about. And this morning, I got up and pulled some cards from the Secrets of the Ancestors deck, and the two that came out seemed like they were pretty relevant for I guess my thought processing during that video, and as well as I have a cat staring at me today, um, and just my path in general, I guess. Um, so the first one was number 16, which is the Deviant, Chaos and Destruction. It says upheaval. Your life is on fire right now. It is about to burn down, but the great news is the sun will rise tomorrow. How are you going to handle this? That is the magical question. The worst thing you can do is resist the drastic shifts coming your way. It is all crashing, but that is okay. Don't get numb or avoid it. Feel your feelings. Your trauma responses of fight, flight, or freeze, or people pleasing will be in full effect. Know that this moment will pass and things will get better. Ancestral medicine. We all have monsters, abusers, and enslavers in our bloodlines. You are not your past and are not your family. And the declaration is, I am ready. Then the next card was 25, which is the Mother of Fire. It says, shine and rise. It says, yes, own it all, the good, the bad, the ugly, and own your power. Living life by your own rules is not easy, but this is what is necessary for you. Let the haters hate. You enjoy the attention. You have the power of influence. Use it wisely. Many are warmed by the bright light you shine. This makes you a magnet and social butterfly when you choose to be. Use your powers of influence for good. Ancestral medicine. You have inherited your ancestors' passion and enthusiastic penchant for standing out. Declaration, my confidence is magnetic. So, of course, the very first thing I noticed about this with 16 and 25, so in numerology, you add those numbers together, and they're both sevens. And seven's kind of been following me around lately. And after I drew these cards, I went over to the cemetery and was walking the dogs. And I was just kind of doing our normal meandering around the cemetery. And, I just kind of had like this little vision pop into my head. And, I was just kind of following that and enjoying that. Because it was a nice little vision, I guess, if you will. I'm just going to show you this cat because she's over here staring at me. Figured I'd hang out with the cats today while I was doing the video and spend a little more time with them. This is Charlotte. She is not pleased with me presently because I'm not paying enough attention to her. But when I do, she also will randomly use her claws, so we kind of small doses. Anyway, so I was having this little vision. It just popped in my head, walking with the twin flame and the future child, and it was very pleasant. I'll just leave it with that. But when I got home, I was starting to focus on I came up with the title of something that I wanted to write the other day. And so I just wrote the title down and I was starting to kind of work through it. And I started thinking about that dream that I had. I think the dream was back in like 2020 when I first had it. Like actual dream when I was sleeping, and then I woke up and texted myself a big long spiel about what I remembered immediately. And the first, when I actually had the dream, what I wrote down was talking about, it was kind of like a house, but it was like huge. And like everything had this kind of, orangey type coloring or hue to it. Like not the people and everything, but just like the building walls and the stonework and all that fun stuff. And there was one scene outside. I don't really remember much of that. Well, the part that I really remembered was that I was in this one room sitting on this little couch, and my ex-husband was there with me. And he was kind of doing the usual mocking me of some sort. And I had my Kelpie in my lap, Ziva. And she was the first dog that he and I got together, and we got her, I think, within 6 months after we got married. And she was supposed to be his dog, but she very, very quickly became my dog. And she hated him, like, from the get-go. And then when I got my TBI, like, it was just that much more. Of course, she was also with me when I fell, so I think she felt extra protective of me after that. So the entire time we were actually together, she would sit on my lap pretty frequently when he was around. And in the dream, she was right exactly in that same place. And I was aware that the other two dogs weren't there, and it seemed like I was mad at him because he was somehow connected to why they weren't there. Like they were still okay, they just weren't there with me at that moment in the dream. And I was irritated. And he's kind of got this irritating look on his face, kind of mocking me and all this stuff. And I'm aware that there's a TV in front of us, and like I don't know what's playing on the TV or anything. It's just I see like the flashing of the colors that it's on. And then behind us are four guys on stools, one of which is the twin flame, and that was before I knew him to be the twin flame before, because that didn't come into my awareness until back in October, somewhere around there, of last year. And this dream was from 2020. So there was like a lot of, I guess, triggering the healing process that twins do. And so he's on the far right side of these four stools, and they're all like, I'm very aware that they're there for me, and they're talking mostly to each other, kind of looking in the direction of the TV, not really engaged with me, and definitely not engaged with him at all. But it's like they're all very tuned into the fact that I'm there. And it feels like they're kind of keeping an eye on me, like if they need to step in and, to get my ex out of the picture or whatever. I don't know. But that was something that stood out. And then there was another scene where I was trying to get away from my ex, and I just like stood up and walked into another area, and like I made eye contact with this other guy, and I didn't remember anything of a conversation or anything like that. Well, at the last new moon, I guess moving in on a month ago, I set the intention to remember what was said in that conversation. And I definitely had something come to mind, and it's like, okay, and I wrote about it on the on my blog page, and in the journal that I've been keeping track of all this journey. But I've talked a lot on this channel about how my dreams, I'm noticing, are interactive, and that And this is one of those that has been that way a lot. And since after I remembered it, because I was actually going through after I found out who my twin was, I was kind of concerned about the fact of how many dreams he had appeared in a short span of time, and not just him, but like people associated with him. And it's like, okay, not really sure what this is or why. Of course, before I knew anything on that end, but it was something that it was kind of uncomfortable when I realized that. I remember this dream and another one really clearly, and then the rest of them I mostly just deleted off as I came across them on my messages to myself. It's like, we're just gonna get rid of that. I wish I hadn't, but oh well, here we are. So anyway, in this like journal that I am keeping, I have written almost daily since back in January. And I'm actually on the fourth one. I had this idea a long, long time ago. I used to think that maybe my writing practices would be more productive if I wrote as though I was writing to, like, my person. And, I'd start that at various points over the years, and then, like, because I didn't know who my person was, it kind of fell away many, many times, which is unfortunate now that I'm thinking on it, because it's like, I feel like that's something that if I would have had more of an idea about that, maybe it would have helped me stay focused on this actual journey that I've been on in my lifetime, and not so easily distracted by the fact that I'm, whatever age that I was at any given point, and how things were appearing, like, because I was 29 before I got married, and so it felt more like I had to basically become somebody else's problem rather than my family's problem. Just some of those crappy ideas that are out there in the collective and throughout history. So I feel like if maybe I would have been able to stay on track a little bit better, but I think that's part of the purpose of my journey too, is now that I am able to have these notebooks going. Essentially they are just journals, but also directed to somebody. Yeah, like the first entry I did discuss the who and how I figured it out, or how the universe pointed me in that direction, and it's come up many times in the writing process since then. Just kind of the consistent theme, or consistent motivating factor, maybe, I don't know. But anyway, when I was writing in the journal a few days ago, I mentioned that it's like this scene on the couch where I'm sitting with my ex. When I first had the dream, my ex was like a lot more in focus, and the anger I had toward him and the mocking that I got from him, that was more the focus. And then it's like in another time it kind of was more focusing on my wandering off and then seeing this other person, and it's like we make eye contact and then the dream goes away. Then another time I go back into it, and then like I'm able to actually talk to this person. And then the other day what happened was, I'm back on the couch, but it's like I'm barely even aware that my ex is there. And it's like, okay, the time before that, when I was thinking into the dream, it's like he was, my twin was speaking to me, um, more engaged with the people he was on the stools with, but very tuned into my energy and asking if I was okay or if I needed them to step in. And then recently it got to the point where it's like we were just kind of like locked in eye contact. And it's still far away and kind of dreamy feeling. But somehow different. And so I wrote about that one in my one journal. And then the next day, it's like it went from where it was this sort of far away and dreamy eye contact kind of a thing to like his energy was like fully honed in on me and the fact that I was real. It's like, but it was like the first time. I mean, like we were making eye contact in the one before, but this was like seeing deep into my soul kind of a thing, and it was just very, very focused on me. It's like, and I wrote about it. I think that one came up yesterday. I wrote about it and was like, I'm really curious about what's happening on the other end right now, like him in the 3D world kind of aspect of it, because that was a definite shift and it felt different, and has continued to feel kind of like that. So I started writing in this other notebook about this, how the dream keeps changing and becoming like more and more tangible, interactive. I don't even know. But as I was writing about this stuff, I got a little distracted. And I started playing on my Etsy shopping cart again. And I have this one business that I have all these things in the cart for, and it's like a lot of bracelets and just tumbled stones, a couple of rings, that kind of stuff. And as I was playing with those and going back and forth with writing and then thinking about it and wandering off again, like I do, I put just the exact right amount of items in my shopping cart, where I ended up, it said the subtotal was $92.92. The shop discount was $15.15, and the total in the cart was $77.77. It's like, obviously that's got to mean something. So I started looking at the numbers, and of course, I have the Angel Numbers app on my phone, and it usually goes with the time. So the first thing was, it was 2:37 when I pulled up the distracted by the sirens. When I pulled up the Angel Numbers app to see if there was any particular entries for those numbers, and there weren't. So I had to go just to a Google search and see what came up. But since I looked at the Angel Number app, I looked at the clock, or at the app, at 2:37. It says, pay special attention to your dreams, daydreams, vision, recurring thoughts, and feelings. The universe is sending you divine guidance regarding your path and purpose. Act according to direction. I can't read my own writing. Your meditations, prayers, and positive affirmations have aligned you with your divine spiritual path, life purpose, and soul mission. I was writing. I had the notebook on my lap and the phone in my hand, and it was getting distracted by a cat. Okay, because I had taken the screenshot from my phone and I decided to write it down so I could actually talk about it in the video. So then, okay, the first thing that came up, I typed in 7777. So for the Google search, it said, represents starting a new chapter in your life. Lean into your instincts and trust the journey you're embarking on. Do the work required to make your dreams come true. Also, trust yourself. And then as I was looking a little further at it, I found this other page. It's Moon Omens. It says 7777 is a very sacred number, a sign of mysticism. Seeing this number indicates you are meant to live the life of a mystic. The universe is guiding you to this path by showing you 7777. Your soul intuitively knows this to be true. You've always felt a little different from others, which led you to exploring your spiritual nature. You inherently understand there is something more to life. You are a spiritual seeker that was born to question the big questions of human existence. You don't accept artificial answers, and the only real truth you've found has been in the substance of your soul. Often means you'd rather be alone with freedom to let your spirit roam than to be constricted by meaningless social engagements. A sign you are at home in the inner realms of your soul. Introspection is part of your nature, and you seek tranquility to have the space to explore within. It is in these times spiritual moments of joy, creativity, and true understanding of universal truth overtake you. It's like, that's all me. As I was reading through it, it's like, well, that resonates a lot. And, I've been seeing sevens a lot. And, I'm still kind of not fully clear. Maybe if I asked for direction on that one, I'd get some clarity on the whole 717 as the twin flame connection. But I have seen a couple things with account numbers recently that have had 777 in it, or in them, and receipts and just all sorts of stuff. It's been popping up as the 3 sevens. But the 4 sevens seemed really significant. Yeah. And then just 2222 on the clock as I looked at it, of course. Yeah. So, and the mysticism thing, that's kind of, it made me laugh at first because, like, my first experience in thinking about anything on that end was when I got out of basic training and came back home and was talking to my mom about my experience with that was basic training. I had to be a battle buddy for a girl who had been sexually assaulted and had to talk to the cadre about the drill sergeant that assaulted her. And I had all like these really heavy, dark feelings and hated everybody all throughout basic training. And then I noticed as I was talking to my mom about this whole thing, it was like, since I was away from it, it's like it just went away. It wasn't there anymore. It's like, that seems kind of weird. And it's like, I wonder if or the thought was something along the lines of, was I picking up somebody else's energetic stuff, and now that I'm away from it, it just dissipated? And I got up to walk into the bathroom. It's like, well, that's kind of a mystical thought. And that was the first point where the idea of anything being mystical really started percolating. And then when I was in seminary, I was taking this class. I was just auditing it because it seemed interesting. I don't even remember what it was. But on the first day, we were talking about our spiritual backgrounds. The denomination you grew up in or whatever, the one that you were choosing more recently or whatever. I don't remember how exactly that whole thing was, but it's like, okay, I started in a Southern Baptist church, and then I had more of my formative time in high school in this United Methodist church, and then I kind of been while I was in undergrad, I bounced around from a bunch of different types of groups trying to figure out where I fit, and never really found anything. And then I was like, but I feel like there's something, or like I'm being pulled in like a sort of direction toward mysticism of some sort, but I don't really know what that means. But that's kind of where I'm at. And the instructor told me I should look into Father Richard Rohr, because he kind of writes from a perspective of like Christian mysticism. It's like, and I got a couple of his books, and like when I was reading them, it's like, holy crap, where's this guy been all my life? Like, this is everything that I've like grown up kind of feeling pulled to, like beliefs wise, and I always just thought I didn't fit anywhere. And then it's like suddenly I find this this guy talking about, he's like a Franciscan monk, I believe. And it's like everything he's saying, it's like I'm totally I get this, I feel this, I guess. So that was like my first whole, I hope this cat doesn't puke on the floor while I'm doing this. She's laying on her throat as she purrs, so yeah. But anyway, like that was my first real sense of awareness about the idea of mysticism. And then, to find it when I pull up something with this number, it's like, oh, yep, that's totally me all over again. I get that. So anyway, going back to my numbers, 9292, the search that pulled up, like, really, I quick reference whatever comes up first, and then if it's like, no, that doesn't feel right, then I'll go more into it, or maybe just, yes, but, I might look at other pages and try to get more insight on it. So this one said, 9292 arrives to assure you are on the right path toward your desires. It beams with abundance, prosperity, and fresh starts. I almost couldn't recognize what I said there either. Says, remember to stay upbeat, fixate your thoughts on your goals, like attracts like, as per the law of attraction. This number signifies the universe's backing. And then you could quit that. That'd be gross. Or that's great. For 1515, the first thing that came up was an AI overview on that one. And 1515, that one, like I've been seeing a lot, like when I look at the timer on these things, or when I'm doing anything. Of course, 515 is my great grandma's number, so that always means something. But also, I watched a Silverleaf Tarot reading last night, and she was talking about the number 1515 in the reading that I was watching. So this one, the AI overview, it said to symbolize pure unconditional love, and that a soulmate is about to enter your life. It is said that it means your soulmate is about to enter your life and will be a great source of comfort and happiness. You'll be able to trust them unconditionally and feel spiritually aligned with them. You might not meet them immediately, but should get out and meet people. And then this tiny rituals page that I came across says, can be a sign of your soulmate is somewhere on the horizon, and the only way to meet them is to get out there and put yourself in the way. A change is coming your way. This can be a series of small changes or one significant one that will propel you forward to a whole new place. Mentally prepping for that change means knowing that you are loved and supported, and your angels are always by your side. Since I think I read that one already. Then when I clicked on the app at my aunt's house to write this stuff down, and see if there was anything for, well, I think that one was just to check with the time. It was 3:19. It says, a positive sign from your angels and ascended masters prompting you along your path. Your visions, ideas, inner wisdom, and intuitive feelings are sending you directions for your life map. Trust the messages and take positive action as guided. Yeah. So, it's been interesting today alone, but like this whole journey, and like I feel like because of this process, because of these things that are coming up, and like I've had all the nudges at other points in time to like study up on things, or I think a lot of them were trying to nudge me into taking notes on this stuff that do come up, like with numbers and stuff, because they are very much pushing me along in the right direction, and it's crazy, or it feels crazy. It's getting interesting, but I feel like that's kind of more of the purpose of like this. Okay, so my 3 projects, I have the vlog currently for why I'm doing this, and that has been a lot of focus on the healing journey overall. And then the blog, which it's not completely a blog, I still call it the blog, but like most recently it's been stuff that has come up like when I felt particularly inspired to write in a particular direction, and you know, when I have a couple, I feel like there's going to be some poems coming out of this and all sorts of other stuff, and that stuff will make it on there as soon as I get it out of my system and it becomes what it is meant to become, and can be shared with the world at that point. And then the other thing is the kind of the big thing that got me into writing in the first place was the book. And I think I've said before that, you know, I read these books when I was in undergrad. I think Eric and Leslie Ludy were the couple that wrote them. One's When God Writes Your Love Story, and the other's When God Writes Your Life Story. And I remember getting really hung up on those, and I loved them. It's like, that would be pretty cool. And now I'm seeing how like all this stuff is compiling together to push me in that direction for that endeavor as well. I was just like, every time I tried to write before, it's like I don't really know what I'm doing. And like it always felt like my love and career lives were very much tied up in one another. And when I was trying to write before, it was less inspired. And, you know, like, I'm largely because, okay, the last relationship I had with my ex-husband, I could say pretty confidently, I don't think there was love in that connection at all. Like, at some point, we cared about each other, but at some point, it was more, I cared about the people that he was making things more difficult for, more than him, honestly. And he was enjoying screwing with me. And I felt like, I got distracted. I had a phone call pop up. It's like, nope. Last time I did that, it shut off my video. But yeah, like, after I got my TBI, there was this deal with one of his good friends, which I always had an issue with, not so much with the friend himself, but for the fact that my ex would claim this guy was his best friend, but then he'd also talk about how they would blow each other off until somebody wanted something or needed something, and then they would become best friends all over again and hang out, and then like he'd always be around. Then it seemed like on my off days he was always around. And he ended up working with my former best friend's fiance, now husband, and I don't know to what extent they actually talked about me. My ex made it sound like his buddy was telling him all these stories all the time about how he and this other guy basically thought I was crazy. And since I was, just recently had this traumatic brain injury and it was all jacked up anyway, I was not at a good place anyway. So it was just a big hot mess. Yeah. And, when those are the connections, it's like, how can I be writing this beautiful romantic love story as it actually happens, when that was the furthest thing that was freaking happening in my life? It was nowhere close to what was actually going on. And yeah, that was a problem. So yeah, it's like, I've known that these two things were so deeply intertwined with one another, and I didn't really understand. I mean, how can you get into it if you don't know what you're writing about anyway? So I think that's been more the importance with the twin flame discovery, and because there's actually discovering who it is, and then there's been all the stuff along the way that has shown me that this is the journey that I'm on, and then the stuff where our energy basically collided and we're brought to awareness of one another, and then and even that, like, it triggered a bunch of things, like, in me to get me moving one way or another. And I can see how everything is connected. It's like, I feel like that's a big part of, like, my journaling aspect at this point, is it's more of the connecting the dots and keeping up with the journey as I'm living it. And then one of these days, when it actually comes to fruition, then it'll be ready to all come together and be put out into the world. And yeah, it's like, in the meantime, here I sit. Yeah. And, like, obviously I'm not doing anything with this, like the whole YouTube thing. As I've said, I think not quite in every video, but many of them, it's like, I never would have started this if it wasn't for that initial concern after I found out who he was, of how would he ever find me if I was doing nothing more than what I had always already been doing. So yeah. And on that note, I just got a text message. There's going to be pizza at my grandma's house here shortly, and I need to go get some things from the house before I go to that house. So I'm going to leave it here for now, because I think I covered everything that I wanted to. Anyway, and as always, I appreciate you, and until the next time, see you later.